Okay, let's go ahead and get started on this portion of the stream, the Terraria Mod practice studying session. So, currently looking into how to make a Terraria mod. So, um, now there's going to be a lot of um, parts that I'm going to be skipping. So if you're like watching this later on YouTube and you're like going, I'm really interested in this, maybe this guy covers it, then well, sorry. That's um, I'm gonna be kind of focused um, on the code that will allow for me to build the mod that I'm looking to build, and that's it right at this moment in time. You know. If I come up with an idea for another mod later on, then I will, look up the necessary information for that as well later on. But for right now, I don't necessarily want to I don't want to be like spending too much time on studying, um, code and sections that isn't necessarily going to be helping me out in the long run. So. Or at least, not helping me out in building the mod that I'm looking to build anyway. So, um, so we are still in the mod item. Was it mod item? Or was it mod tile? It was mod tile. Um, because um, we had up to that from the day before, and we got all the way down to this one here, the anchor bottom, anchor left, anchor right, and anchor top. Now, again, this doesn't necessarily help me out in what I need to do because I don't necessarily need to worry about anchors per se. Um, so we're not like having them hooked into, you know, um, the tech tree isn't going to have anything kind of like latching onto each other. So, um, so yeah. So a lot of this is data that I don't necessarily need to worry about. So we're going to go ahead and kind of skip all the anchor tops, anchor bottoms, and so on and so forth. The direction this tile will be eligible will be placed in. By default, this is set to none, meaning that the tile can be placed when the player is facing either direction. When used with alternate placements, the tile can be given separate sprites when the player is facing left and placing the tile and facing right and placing the tile. This is how chairs and bed tiles typically work. By convention, the normal placement is usually left and the alternate is right. So in this particular case, I won't care about it. I'm not going to care about the direction. So, um, you know, so like it shouldn't necessarily matter in the tech tree, what direction I place it, right? So, um, is it am I gonna have any kind of difficulty with direction when I place it into like a box, much like the guide? Not sure. Not sure if I'm gonna be kind of facing kind of issue, to be honest. Um, so, um, you know, I hope that I don't necessarily need to deal with this particular issue, but there might be the potential that I might. Um, if so, then I'm always going to be kind of, um, you know, defaulted to the, left. So, But typically, I would imagine that direction shouldn't have any, um, shouldn't really matter when it comes to the tech tree. So, if they're, I would assume that they have some form of default at the very least. So I'm most likely going to try to leave all the placements at default. So, um, so there won't be any kind of necessity for direction when it comes to the tech tree. So, style horizontal. By default, tile styles are oriented vertically on the spreadsheet. Okay. May be more convenient to place them horizontally. To do this, tile object, new tile, style horizontal is equal to true. So, okay. I mean, I guess it depends on the, um, you know, on what values to kind of be placed there, or what, um, you know, like, you know, the tiles here, are vertical, right? But you only have the two, right? But how will it know which ones to grab? Which, like the ordering of it, if I do the style horizontal, you know, like, you know, if it has a style, if there's like a style sheet and it shows all the different tiles, who's to say that, this tile and then, and then right after it, it's this tile. So you could basically have this tile right there being placed, next to it, which obviously wouldn't work. So that's why I'm kind of like, um, this feels a little problematic in that, um, we might have, um, I might have a little bit of difficulty, with the overall placement sometimes. I hope not, but you know, I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna have, how much difficulty we're gonna have with it. So, style wrap limit. If you're making a lot of styles, you should consider using style wrap limit to keep your spreadsheet files neatly laid out. This can make it easier to work with than a really long or tall image. Style wrap limit makes the image wrap around to the next row column depending on style horizontal to continue placing styles. In the better tile sprite, tile 91, tile object data, new tile style wrap limit is equal to 111, means that styles 0 to 110 are the first line, styles 111 to 221 are on the next, and so on. If you don't have additional lines of styles, you do not need to set this to anything. Note that this value is counted in placement styles, which is not necessarily tile styles if the alternates or random styles are being used. Now, I don't know if I'm really gonna be needing any, um like I'm probably gonna be like reusing a lot of assets, you know, because especially when trying to make um, the tech tree, I don't necessarily want to, um, I don't necessarily want to be, um, needing to like draw the pixel art in there to make it look all nice because I won't have the patience for that myself. I don't have the drawing ability to make anything super fancy. Um, I mean, someone, if you have the artistic ability, you're welcome to, maybe help me out with that if you want. But even right now, I still don't know exactly how it's gonna be like looking overall. I still need to kind of put everything together. So, um, I have an idea as to what it might look like, but trying to put it together is another question altogether, you know, because I don't know um, if I'm going to be kind of facing off against, um, um, you know, if I'm trying to make a branching system, do I use straight lines for all the leaves, or do I use a kind of like a bracket system, curve, curve, kind of, or 90-degree turn to make it, you know, to set it up that way. And even at that point, um, like like I've kind of shown off the fact that, I place a piece of wood into the guide, and there's like, hundreds of possible builds that I can use with just wood. So that's why it's like, um, um, how would I design the tech tree to kind of handle that? So that's all. If I try to do straight lines, then it might look like an absolute mess. So, um, and I'm also going to need to be a little afraid for, like crossovers, or, um, like think of it this way. Let's say, we have wood. Oh, here, let me kind of show it. So, um, let me make sure that we have our tutorial mod going. There we go. So, you know, let's go into our little, mod world here. So I go to the guide here, right? And I put in the piece of wood, and I see like, oh my God, there's so much here, right? Well, um, some of these are, additional like materials. I mean, obviously, I'm not really showing too many here, but I mean, like the copper axe, right? That's another material. So let's say, like, I have something that, um, like, I put in a particular piece of material that has like multiple different materials that I can use from it. And then, what happens after that? Like, am I going to be seeing, um, you know, um, like one of the concerns that I would have would be, well, here, let me try to explain it a little bit, just to make sure that I don't get bothered by anybody. All right. So if I have, like a little, um, if I have like a little, item here that kind of like that, hey, this is branched into like one particular item, um, and then it branches out to, you know, like two others, right? So it goes, okay, well, we go, up and then over, and then we have another that's over kind of thing, right? So, you know, so the one item kind of leads into two. And well, what happens if, these two items has like multiple after that? Are we gonna have like, you know, like this, you know, um, are we gonna have something where it's like, um, this item right here, suddenly gonna have like a connection that goes up and kind of interferes with the connectors here, for example. I don't know if I can, if I'm really kind of describing it right. Um, maybe let me bring out like paint or something like that so that I can kind of show you what I'm kind of talking about. Um, let's see, hold on. Okay, don't see anything terrible about that. So let's go ahead and bring window capture, paint. There we go. Oh yeah. Oh hell, let me make it supersize, right? Just so I can kind of talk about everything that I kind of want to talk about. So so let's say we have our first item here, right? You know, um, or actually, hold on. You know, let's use a actual square. You know, for our item that we kind of place in there, right? And then then we want to have like say you know like three different lines that are kind of going off and saying, hey, this can make this item, and this can make that item, and this can make that item, and so on and so forth, right? Well, what happens if if I, have, you know, um, a tech tree where, not only does this one have uh, like three additional materials that it can make, for example, but this one down here has its own, but um, this one down here has its own like three um, materials, you know, and suddenly we now have you know, a huge mess, you know, in terms of um, the tech tree, right? You know, I mean, well, would you really appreciate something like this happening, you know, in on the tech tree? No, I wouldn't. You know, so I'm gonna need to make sure that I need to handle spacing well enough. So there's no necessarily conflict here. And that's gonna require, extra code to try to make sure that what you see here doesn't necessarily happen, right? So, I don't want to, I wouldn't want to see something like this happen in the tech tree, nor should anybody else. So, the thing is that I need to kind of keep it dynamic enough to allow for, um, uh, to, um, allow for the material to kind of build, you know, or to show everything that it can make. Um, but at the same time, I could potentially have this, right? And when you compare this with with the Terraria, in that, you know, when you compare what is possible there with, what, um, like everything that you could potentially make with like just the wood itself, visually that's going to be quite a mess. Um, Now, obviously, there's going to be some branches that will, stop. Um, but there might be some branches that branch off into plenty of others. You know, like you know, let's see. Um, like for example, tin ore here. You know, um, we have tin ore. You know, well, it doesn't necessarily um we're not necessarily branching off too badly on this. We're just having like three different branches, but then, you put in the bar and there, and now you suddenly have a lot more, possibilities and branches, stemming from it as well. You know, some of which, as you can see, doesn't have any kind of material, so it doesn't go any further than that. So you're gonna obviously have some that, are just, the one material line, and that's about it. But I can't guarantee that. So um, so that's why um, you know um, I'm a little worried on on how to kind of design the um, the tech tree. So if it's meant to be dynamic, then I need to allow for it to adjust itself accordingly to allow for the expansion of like the next tier of branch, if you get what I'm saying. So, um, and it might turn into a mess. Not gonna lie, it might turn into a mess. Um, so I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It might be a little difficult to try to arrange it in such a fashion to allow for, um, you know, to like readjust the branches, readjust the brackets to allow for additional room. I might need to look that up coding wise to see if I can find um, like I'm pretty sure that someone's probably already done something very similar to that in some fashion or another online. So, I can probably look up how to kind of generate a bracket system that is dynamic and being able to kind of use that for this. Or at least I would hope. We'll find out. So. Style multiplier used to give room for alternate placements and random styles in the spreadsheet. This room is added along the style layout direction, meaning horizontal If style horizontal is true, this should be set to the product of the alternate placement styles or random style range to ensure that the alternate placement and random style placement are all considered the same tile style. Okay. Um, and again, I don't know if I really need to worry too much about this one. So some tiles use style multiplier or style wrap limit together to place each style on its own line with its own alternate placement. For example, torches set style multiplier and style wrap limit to 6 while setting style horizontal to true. And result is each tile styles on the new row rather than on the same row as placement styles from other tile styles. Um, okay. Again, this shouldn't necessarily worry. This shouldn't matter for what to my purpose. I'm not going to care about style or anything along those lines. So I don't see this as a major necessity for the tech tree. So similar to style multiplier, but adds room between lines of styles instead of in line with styles. If style horizontal is true, this means that additional rows will be added between rows of styles after the style wrap limit is reached. This extra space can be used for tile states, such as on and off states or row states. It can also be used for tile animation. This should be set even if style wrap limit is not used to correctly calculate tile drops. Again, I don't really see a necessarily need for this, but not for the tech tree, but you never know. You never know. Random style range allows this tile to be to place a randomly styled placement style when placing. For example, a coral tile uses a random style range value 6, allowing 6 different tile placement styles to be selected when placing. Used with style multiplier to ensure all placement tiles are interpreted as the same style to allow tile drops to work as expected. So, but again, not really that big of a deal for me. I'm not really looking to have, you know, to worry about random style. Not not necessary for my purpose. So uses custom cam plays should always be true. If you copied a template, it will already be true, but be sure you set it so you aren't copying from a template. Okay. Um, Not sure what that's all about, but um, like um, I don't really see this anywhere, so um, okay. This doesn't necessarily explain what it's all about, though, so mm, oh well. We'll leave it. We'll leave it alone for now. Wires, toggles, changing frame, changing states. Again, don't really care about this. Don't really need to use this, so we're gonna ignore it. Drop flip horizontal, drop flip vertical. A true tile placement preview will draw this tile flipped horizontal or vertical at even X or Y tile coordinates. Again, not not really that important for me. I don't really care about, you know, whether or not they're flipped in one way or another. So this isn't needed for me. So There are many more yet not explained in this guide. Many of these are explained in actual documentation. Decompile, try and look and initialize to figure out how they are used. So again, a lot of this probably don't need to worry about. So yeah, we can ignore all that. Add tile type. Be sure to call this or your mod won't load properly. And this should be the last line of code dealing with tile object data in set static defaults. Tile object data.add tile type. So it won't load properly if you don't add that in. But at the same time, that's if you are creating a tile object data. So um, but in my particular case, I don't really see the need to create a object data. So I don't really know if add tile is going to be necessary for my purposes, but um, but obviously, still potentially useful. New alternate placement styles. Some tiles have alternate placement styles. Again, don't really care too much about this. Don't care about direction, about placement per se, because we don't necessarily need to worry about, tile placement per se. I mean, we're still going to be kind of worried about, like visual placement anyway, because I still need to kind of reference that information to be placed. But okay, I need to use the restroom here real quick, so I will be right back. So don't go anywhere. I shall return. Alright, sorry about that, everybody. Sorry for being away for so long. Uh, my stomach really needed to relieve, so apologies for that. So, hey there all, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. How's your day been? So let's get back into this. Sorry about the wait on this, but again, let me kind of, you know, reiterate that, you know, probably not going to be seeing too much in need of doing anything with the alternate, with the Terraria mod or anything along those lines. Not really seeing too much in terms of the subtile either in this particular case. So I don't really see a need to do anything here as well. So, um, so yeah, at least not for the not for my purposes anyway. You know, for doing the um, not for building of the tech tree. So I don't really see a need for either of those right at the moment. Um, we can retrieve the tile style of a place tile using the tile object data get tile style. Tile method is mostly used to facilitate tile style specific behaviors. Various mod tile methods, for example, torch. The tile object data get tile style methods is used to modify light, to customize light emitted by the example torch and example water torch styles. Again, probably not something that I'm really going to be that concerned over. Concerning the tech tree, so probably outside of the necessity that I need to do. So, so again, another part of the code here that I don't really, probably don't really need to worry too much about. Animation, definitely no need to worry about that. So, um, there's no purpose of me doing an animation for the tech tree, so that's out. Um, and we got frame tile, frame important tile, and relevant references. Um, I don't really see anything here that absolutely tells me that, you know, I'm going to be needing um, um, any of these per se, you know, for my purposes. So yeah, I think that we don't necessarily need to worry about any of this for the time being. So let's go ahead and head back to this page. And we're done with the mod tile. So we're going to be going on to the mod tile entity, which, um, you know, again, I don't know if I'm really going to be needing this all that much, but, um, you know, I can't say it's going to be definitive. Um, like I still might need to use the entity in order to place the, you know, the specific item into the tech tree, or, you know, have a representation of the item showing up. So I still might need to use it in a fashion, but yeah. Um, let's see. This guide serves to explain common things shared among all tile entities. This guide assumes that you know how to create files, create classes, and know what it means for a class to inherit from another class. Yes, it's important to recognize that there is a distinction between tiles and tile entities. Tiles are fixed locations within a world and must be accessed via the main.tile variable. They cannot contain additional data and cannot run code during the game update. Okay. Tile entities are additional data usually attached to a tile that have an update method. They usually work in conjunction with a tile to make a tile behave dynamically. Tile entities can run code every game update, while normal tiles only have a chance to run code when random update is called on it by the world update game loop. I don't really see this as a major necessity then. Because we're not necessarily going to be, changing the tile during updates on the tech tree. That's not necessarily the purpose of it. Like, we're not changing the shape of it. We're not changing the, if we're breaking it or anything along those lines. That's not necessarily the purpose of the tech tree to have, an update. So I don't see this being a major factor. Um, potentially, first glance. So I don't necessarily see this as something that I'm going to be really in need of, but not sure. Basically, if a tile needs to have additional data or reliable run code, it needs to have corresponding tile entity bound to it and work with it. But I mean, again, I don't necessarily see the need to, run additional reliable code, with tiles that I might need to generate on the tech tree. So I don't see this as a major deal. So prerequisites. For simplifying later code in this guide, the following class is used. Feel free to put this class in your mod. tileutils.cs file. Attempts to find top left corner multi-tile at location. I mean, I'm not really going to be needing to really worry about that too much. Um, you know, it's one of those things where it's, and once again, I don't necessarily need to um, generate the tile or its location or, make it, um, have any kind of interaction with it or anything along those lines. Um, so a lot of this is um, not necessary, from what I can see. So there are three components for making a tile entity. First and foremost, you will need a mod item that places a mod tile. Noteworthy line needing is the line in set defaults, which sets item.create tile. See example mods placement items. Making the tile entity, setting up a mod tile entity requires the usage of a few hooks. Valid tile, again, don't really care too much about. Hook after replacement, again, don't really care about. On net place, um, again, don't really need to worry about that, I feel. Making a tile, again, don't need to worry about that. Set defaults, don't need to worry about that. Kill multi-tile, I don't need to worry about that. Other useful things, accessing tile entity, opening a UI via right click on your multi-tile can be done as follows. Yeah, again, a lot of these don't really need to worry too much about. So maybe opening a UI. There might be, I might need to have something for opening up the tech tree. I might need to consider doing something along those lines. You know, some form of button that anybody can kind of click on to allow for the user interface to appear, and we can then use it afterwards. So there might be a need. Now that I think about it, there might be a need. But I mean, it's just gonna be like for one, you know, it's just gonna be probably just for one value, you know, and that's it. So, um, you know, so for example, um, you know, let's go back in the game here and let me show the, you know, we have our boss checklist, right? You know, and if I do a, you know, if I look on here and I open up the window, see this boss log has interaction, so this might be like a tile and tile entity type of look and feel to it. And, you know, it opens up a brand new user interface. So, to be honest, I might need to kind of use, I might be kind of copying a little bit of code from this boss log, you know, to kind of generate, you know, see how they went about creating the boss log, to kind of create something very similar to it, um, and you know, see how they generated um, their user interface and how it can be interactive and the like, you know, allowing it to open up other, um, you know, other pages of it, kind of thing. Um, Although I might not necessarily need to worry too much about everything in here because once again, I'm, you know, most likely I'm gonna want to try to do a like a full screen for the user interface, the tech tree user interface. Um, so that's all. Um, so yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and remove that real quick. So, I mean, potential for at least one tile and tile entity, potentially. So, alright. We have netcode. What's this all about? Basic netcode. Looking to learn how to write and send your own mod packets. Read our intermediate netcode guide. Terraria is frequently played with many players on a server. Ensuring that your mods work well with friends is something that should not be an afterthought. Test early and often in multiplayer as you develop your mod. In this guide, we will go over how to make your mods multiplayer compatible and hopefully show you it is not as difficult as it may seem. Okay. Well, for the user interface, for the tech tree, it shouldn't necessarily rely on the multiplayer, you know, on um, you know what the multiple people have created or built or something like that. If I was to do that, then it might get a little too confusing for some people because, like, if they come in, like at the like a tail end of the game, like the first time playing, they join some people that have been playing for a long time. I don't necessarily want them getting overwhelmed by um, seeing someone else's tech tree already being filled out. But maybe I should kind of have that option to allow for that kind of linkage. You know, um, which again, that might be something that might be like an extra goal to kind of like work towards, but maybe not necessarily make it um, a necessity potentially. Um, hard to say on this one. Um, but you know, initial thought line is it shouldn't necessarily need to work with multiplayer. It should work with the player's client interface and build based off of, what the client, makes and does and so on and so forth. It shouldn't necessarily rely um, on the multiplayer. Um, I could try to see about getting it linked up so that everybody has access to the tech tree. Everybody can kind of see what other people have made, so it becomes available to them if, say like, if someone makes an item, for example, um, that like they hand off to another player, right? Like they create the copper axe and hand it off to another player, right? Then um, you know, like what happens to the other player's tech tree in that particular case, right? Like they're not going to necessarily see the construction of it, the building of it, to see um, to have it like um, to look at the base materials to and how they were used to make said item, especially if they have it hidden away. If they didn't have it hidden away, then obviously that base item was going to be kind of um, um, well, maybe not necessarily hidden because I mean as soon as you put the item into the tech tree to begin with, then it might be fine. But at the same time, um, um, you know, ooh, wait. Right now, hmm, let me bring out the paint here a little bit. So, you know, we have our, you know, we had our, mismanaged tech tree, right? Um, but, we don't necessarily need to really worry about that anymore, you know. So now, um, initially I was thinking, oh, hey, I put, a material there and, um, oh, okay. Um, so, initially I was like going, okay, well, um, maybe, um, I can't necessarily grab that. Nope. Okay. Um, so, but, you know, um, initially, like, I was going, okay, well, maybe I can just, like, put the material in there and it shows, the, what it can make afterwards, right? As the tech tree. Put a material in, it shows everything in there, very similar to what, you know, the guide is all about, right? Um, Now, um, the other side of things is, when I have like, a pretty advanced item that has, things that it can eventually turn into, you know, but it was made from like two items itself or something like that, right? So, so not only could it, be built into like, three other things there, but, it was, you know, it originally came from two other items to be made into it, right? Now, what happens um, if the item itself isn't a material? Like it has no, items that can, you know, be it can be built into, right? It has like, maybe um, two items that, you know, it's made from, right? But, you know, it's not a material after that, um, so I'm not going to necessarily see, it won't have anything beyond it, right? Um, should I allow the tech tree to allow for myself to like put, some form of like, hey, if I put like a weapon in here, oh, that's didn't really want to save that, but so if I put like a weapon in there that's not a material, um, you know, um, will I need to worry about, um, you know, should I do that? Should I worry about that? Because right now I have I can go to the guide and I can kind of see the guide's code on how it takes in a material and, pulls up all the recipes that, that particular item can eventually make, right? But if I want to try to do like a reverse engineer in the sense that, hey, you have this particular weapon, I need to see what can make it and show that on the tech tree, um, then um, then I'm probably going to want to have, that particular space allow for non-materials as well. Ooh, that's going to be messy. Um, Now, thankfully, um, when I create the backwards compatible and stuff like that, um, you know, it might not I might not necessarily need to worry too much about the um um like I'm not gonna need to like expand upon any of the ones before, right? Um so for example, like, you know, hey, I have like, you know, one item and then, um, we just use two items to make, to make this. Like say, hey, we have ourselves a, like a torch here, right? We have a torch that's being made, and in order to make the torch, we need, you know, like wood and gel, right? And the wood and gel doesn't have any kind of things kind of going, beyond it. Like there's nothing that will like, generate like, like hey, we're building something into the gel or wood or something along those lines, right? But um, what happens if we have something that um, you know, might be in a long line of, potential builds, right? Um, then um, then what's nice about it is that even if I was to say like, hey, this is, the wood, for example, that it's used to make the torch, I don't necessarily need to worry about like, creating all the hundreds of lines stemming from wood afterwards. Okay? Because I put in the torch and, it shows me like um the wood and the gel and that's it. I don't need to worry about all the extras that wood can generate from, you know. Now there might be some recipes that might require like, more than two to make the item, you know, who's to say? Um, so I mean, there's still going to be a sense of worrying about like expansion and making sure that everything's like lined up properly and whatnot. But um, um, but I don't necessarily need to go overboard on seeing you know, um, what the items can make or something like that. Like I don't necessarily need to see everything that wood makes, you know, if I put in the torch. You get what I'm saying? So, so I don't see a need for that. Not for this particular version. Now, maybe, if people want more of it, then maybe I can try to see about um, expanding it a little bit more than that. I don't know. But for right now, yeah, I don't think there's really too much um, that I'm gonna need to worry too much about in terms of the tech tree in that regard. I mean, if there's like a call for it, maybe like if someone is like on, hey, that's great that I can see everything that like the um that I you know um it's great that I can see like what I used to make said weapon, but I could really use an idea as to what other things were created from that base material that was used to create said weapon. Then maybe, but again, that would probably be a very large stretch goal, I would say, in order to try to build something for the Terraria mod. I would imagine. So, so yeah. Um, so right now I'm looking the at all this. I'm like going, Like, um, shall I make it multiplayer compatible? Um, should I show previous materials, what they can build? Um, because that would make the tech tree expand quite a bit if I was to try to worry about that, right? So, and hey there, Ben. How's it going? Welcome to the stream. How's your day been? Um, and then like, let's see, there was like one other thing that that I was a little worried about on what um I didn't necessarily want to have in terms of the um, I didn't want to, as a stretch goal, maybe as a stretch goal kind of thing or something extra that I can maybe do, but I'm forgetting what it was. What was it that really kind of set me off on what potentially might be um, um, like what I might not necessarily need to worry too much about. Hmm. Let's see. I'm not sure. What? I might need to kind of go back through my old videos and see, you know, where I talked about it and what, I might need to consider sometime in the future. Otherwise, I might need to, um, I could probably try to see about, what it was last time. Or maybe it'll come to me again. I don't really know. Um, but, you know, um, let's see. Potential stretch goals. Let me kind of, put these down so that I can kind of keep in mind. Forgot the first idea. Review past videos. All right. So, um, you know, maybe it'll come back to me. Um, but so far I've had three ideas that, could potentially work. Potentially. I don't know. But, um, but like I don't, like I said, I don't know if I really need to worry too much about multiplayer because it's all kind of meant to be fairly, to just kind of stay within the, and initially it's just meant to kind of stay within the single client, and that's about it. So, so I don't think there's really anything more that I need to kind of worry about along those lines, at least for now. So I might need to worry about it later, but I don't think so. You know, NPC drops in loot. Don't need to worry about this. You know, this is um, this is extra stuff that I don't need to stress about. I don't need to, worry about any kind of NPCs or dropping from monsters or anything along those lines. So this is code that I don't need to worry about when it comes to the tech tree. So, same with the NPC spawning rates. Don't need to worry about it. You know, we're not we're not spawning in a different NPC to kind of handle this kind of tech tree um, um, requirement. So, I mean, maybe I could, but I mean, or maybe I could try to create something that is, you know, um, um, but it kind of defeats the purpose though, because I kind of want the player to be able to reference this information anywhere, not have to go back to not have to go back to basically a guide, for example, just to try to see the information in the tech tree. So, so I don't see a need for NPCs in this particular case. You know, not for the tech tree. So, um, sound guide, maybe I might need to worry about that a little, but again, um, maybe. I don't really know if I really need to though, to be honest. Because I mean, unless I want to put in some little like, you know, uh, magical sound effects like or something like that, into like having it reveal, more on the tech tree or some crap like that. Which I mean, why? That's just extra fluff that really doesn't need to go there, to be honest. Um, so I don't really see a need for any form of sounds when it comes to this particular mod. So I don't really see a need to do anything there. So again, very useful if you're trying to create something else like a sword, uh, a ranged item, magic item, or something like that. Then obviously, yeah, you'll probably want to have some form of sound, or maybe you are doing some form of boss fight that you want, specific, music looping or something like that. Who knows? Then great, this is perfect for you. But for right now, not not worthwhile for me. So okay, I think that is going to be it for all those for the time being. We are going to go ahead and start up the basic time and timers guide next time around. So let me make a note of that. Basic time and timers guide, so I don't lose my spot later on. But that's going to be it for today's little coding session that I do. Um, we'll continue this tomorrow, and we'll see what we can do about that. We'll see, um, what more we can kind of do. Now, obviously, I will want to kind of get down into, advanced custom UI guide, for example, user interface. That is probably something that I will definitely be needing to um, look in on and work on and so on and so forth. Um, but that again is going to be a little bit later. So, um, but yeah, that's going to be it for today's session on this. Stay tuned for the Telos principle. We'll be continuing that in just a few minutes. Um, I want to thank All and Ben for showing up and stopping on by and doing some very brief reactions there. Thank you for being here. Anybody else that was just kind of hanging out in the background, thank you for being here as well. Um, but I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording, um, for YouTube. For those of you watching, on YouTube and not like right now, you're not here with me live, you know. Hopefully you give it a like and subscribe. That would be fantastic. Check out the description for multiple links down there. But that's going to be it for tonight. So let's go ahead and stop the recording.